Hey guys, it's Kylie. So now we're going to do a sourdough starter. There are so many different ways to make a sourdough starter, whether you're using potato water or using fruits as a feeder for it. There's just endless things that you can find to be able to do. This is one that I like. Do what you want. But we are going to make a starter. So I've got my warm water here. So I've got 2 cups of warm water. We're going to do 1 package of yeast that we add to it. So make sure your water is not too hot because we don't want to kill little baby yeast. Added those. Next, we're going to do a little bit of sugar because that is food for us. So let me get a spoon. About half a teaspoon of sugar. You really do not need much in order to get this started, especially because we're using just a small amount. The bowl that I've got is a plastic bowl. I follow the instructions that they say not to use metal or reactive bowls with it, and not to use metal or reactive spoons. So far it served me well. So I've got a plastic bowl, I've got a wooden spoon that I'm making it with, and I'm going to store it in this gallon glass jar. You don't really need a gallon size glass jar. I would use about half a gallon, but somebody's already got a whole lot of fermentation going on right now. So I could not do that. Alright, so you want to dissolve your yeast into the warm water with the sugar, and then the amount of water that you used, which was 2 cups, we're going to use that same amount of flour. So I've just got a plain bread flour. We'll heft it up here to you. I've already got it opened up. It's just a plain bread flour. You don't want to use anything that says self-rising or anything. You just want your flour. A lot of people like to use rye to start it with. I think that that's a good selection as well, using the rye flour, but I'm just going to use a regular old white flour for now. Make sure I got my cups leveled. Alright, so you want to get that together until it's smooth and creamy, so it takes just a minute to make sure you got that blended. You don't want any chunks in there, so make sure you get it good and stirred. The next part's really just a waiting game, so you gotta wait until bubbles start coming up on it. Whenever we've added the yeast to it, it really gives it a bump, so it's not gonna take it but maybe a day or two till it starts getting that. And then we're gonna want to feed it. So anytime that we feed the starter, you never want to add more food to it than what your base starter is. But I probably will just be adding a little bit to it after the bubbles arrive. So if it starts getting like kind of fizzy, that's a great sign. It means it's alive, it's doing well, it's breathing. And then we're going to add about the same amount of flour and water, so maybe about half a cup to a cup, depending on how fast you're wanting to get your starter built up. And then we'll just feed it. So we'll mix those 2 things together and then pour it into our starter and give it a stir with like a wooden spoon. Again, you don't want to use those reactive spoons for it. So we've got it ready to go. We're going to pour it into our container. This bowl is not one that's made with a spout for easy pouring, so we'll see if I make a mess. Alright, and then the next thing we want to do, we do need to keep it open to air. So we want to make sure that it can breathe and that air can circulate through. So you do not want to put a tight-fitting lid on it. So we are going to put, I've got a cheesecloth here, so I'm just going to put the cheesecloth over the top and then rubber band it. And this is going to keep any critters out. You don't want any flies or something crazy coming in and like planting eggs on your starter. You're going to have a really sad day whenever you wake up and realize that's happened. So we're just going to set it to the side. Really, there's just not a whole lot that you have to do with it other than to remember to stir it. So I usually stir it about twice a day and then feed it. So I feed it. You don't want it to get too big, so it just depends on how much you're using. And if you're really not going to use it, you'll end up putting it in the fridge to slow that process down so that you can keep it going. I've got friends that have had theirs going for years. Probably didn't start it exactly like I started. Again, there's so many different ways, but there's so many recipes we can make out of it. So now that we've got the starter ready, then we'll see what recipes we come up with to add to it. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching me. Don't forget I'm available on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. So find your favorite platform and you can find me.